Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to episode 5 of Be With Me in the book of James. Today we're going to talk about how to think about God. He's already started this. We're on page 1, chapter 1 of the book of James. He's already talked about how we're supposed to be steadfast under trial, to expect trials, and to know that it's for our holiness and growth. And then he talked about yesterday the anatomy of a sin. That is, desire plus our acquiescence plus our yes equals conception. And conception unchecked equals the birth of sin. The birth of sin unprevented equals the growth of sin. And then finally, the growth of sin unstifled equals death. So we are looking at the terrible consequence of unchecked desire, and he's going to help us, or he did help us look at what we're supposed to do with that temptation. And then yesterday, finally, we looked at one little thing about what to think about God. It was in verse 5, who is God? And we found out that he was a listener, and he receives requests, and he loves certain requests, that is, requests for wisdom. And then he gives without reproach. He's a generous giver. So today, what to think about God? What are we supposed to think about God in our trials? Well, that he's not a tempter, and that he's a perfecter. He allows some trials to perfect us, make us holy, but his intentions are always good. So listen in here to the closing verses of James chapter 1. Do not be deceived, my dear brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there's no variation or shadow due to change. Verse 18, of his own will he brought us forth by the word of truth, that we should be a kind of first fruits of his creatures. Okay, that's it for the passage today, because it's so deep with blessing. So how are we to think about God? That's our big question. And he answers it by saying, every good gift is from above. That is from the Father of lights. These are God's tadas. And these aren't just gifts to the church or to believers. This list that I was thinking of today, every single one of them is given to believers and unbelievers. The spiritual word for that is common graces. It's common grace that the Lord allows for the whole planet. All right, in no particular order, here's just a couple things that are good gifts from above. All right, how about children? Oh my goodness. You know, children on the birth, the conception and birth and growth and learning of children is just so far above our pay grade. Grandchildren even more so. Plus, maybe more joy. Okay, how about spouses? How about someone to co-labor in life? How about someone to give in marriage and to figure out how to walk this life together? Or how about our families of origin, mothers and fathers? Or how about bodies that function, that digest food, and that take oxygen out of the air and receive photons to see, and thinking that could be uncluttered? Or how about just bigger picture? How about a planet that stays on course? Thank you for that, Lord. How about a universe that supports our planet? How about seasons that roll in and out? Or animals, just think about animals to accompany us, pets, for example, or animals that we use to serve us, that feed us. And how about the earth, that it's so productive that it's able to feed the people that are on it? And how about the blessings he gives in skills, stuff to do, skill to cook a meal or get exercise, or fun stuff like learn to dance, or work stuff, learn to account and be productive in the workplace, or awe in nature. How about creation? What a great God we have. How about the bluebells blossoming in springtime? We just have to bow our knee to that. So these are common graces that God gives to everybody. Every good gift is from above. Let's get this straight. So how should we think about God? Think about God that his intentions are good, even with trials, that every good gift from above, every good gift is from God. Every good thing on this planet is from God. How should we think about God? He is a good God. And then in the second verse that we looked at today, these are less common graces. That is, who does he bring forth by his will? So then we find a God who has this wonderful earth and then has this action upon this world, which is sovereignty, and he brings forth believers. He brings forth his church, and he gives spiritual salvation. And by his election, by his choice, by his sovereignty, and by his intervention, that he's not a passive God, but acts upon the world. Of his own will, he brought us forth by the word of his truth. So far we've learned that evil is the farthest thing from God, that the Lord works in trials, that his intentions are always good, that the furthest thing from God is evil, and that goodness and holiness and perfection are the things that are close to God. So finally then, is God calling you to a spiritual salvation? Does he want to bring you forth? And then you do your job, which is to be faithful and to say yes. Or has he already brought you forth? Is there a trial that you, believer, are in that he is using to perfect you? Yield and be a first fruit. How do you get through trials? Well, how do you get fruits of the Spirit? Well, by the fight of the trials. The fruits yielded by God's will that's our job. Our part of it is to do the fight. So today, every good gift is from above. God's intentions are good. His creation is wonderful. He gives it in common graces to everybody, and even more so by adopting us into his family, the less common graces, if you will. So how should we think about God? That he is good and he is a giver of every good gift. Let's put that on our lapels and think about that today. I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for listening.